I never expected a simple vacation to change the way I see people, and myself, forever. It all began last spring when I decided to take a solo trip to Colorado. I'd been working non-stop at a marketing firm in Seattle for 3 years, feeling trapped in a cycle of deadlines, traffic, and coffee-fueled nights. I wasn't unhappy, but I wasn't truly alive either. I needed air, real air, mountains, sky, and space to think. I booked a week at a small bed and breakfast in Estes Park, right near the Rocky Mountains. The plan was simple: hike, read, and disconnect from everything. But fate had a different plan, one that started with a stranger named Lena Carter. Day 1, the arrival. When I first saw her, she was sitting on the wooden porch of the inn, sketching in a notebook. She wore a light denim jacket, her hair tied in a messy bun, and she had that calm kind of energy that immediately pulls you in. "Hi, I'm Daniel," I said, setting down my backpack. She smiled, closing her notebook. "Lena, you just got here." We started talking, casually at first, about the weather, the view, the innkeeper's homemade cookies. But there was something natural about the conversation. It wasn't forced, like small talk usually is. She told me she was an art teacher from Portland, taking time off to find new inspiration for her students. By evening, we decided to go hiking together the next morning. Day 2, into the mountains. The trail was steeper than it looked, but Lena didn't seem to mind. She stopped often to sketch or take photos of trees and rocks that looked like they had stories. At one point, when we reached a high overlook, she said quietly, "Do you ever feel like you've been running your whole life but don't know what from?" The question caught me off guard. "Yeah," I said, "all the time." That's when she told me about her brother, how he'd passed away 2 years earlier in an accident, and how she hadn't drawn for nearly a year after that. The trip, she said, was her way of learning to create again, to forgive life for moving on. We sat there for a long time, just listening to the wind move through the pine trees. It was the first time in years I didn't feel the need to check my phone. Day 3, the storm. That afternoon, the weather turned. Dark clouds rolled over the peaks, and rain began to fall fast. We rushed down the trail, laughing and slipping through the mud. When we finally made it back to the inn, soaked from head to toe, Lena's laugh echoed through the hallway, full and free. We made hot cocoa in the lounge, wrapped ourselves in blankets, and watched the storm through the window. She showed me her sketches, mostly trees, mountain ridges, and faces that seemed to come alive through her pencil strokes. "You see stories in everything," I said. She smiled softly. "Maybe. Or maybe I just don't want to forget what it feels like to care." That line stayed with me. Day 4, the village festival. The next day, the town held its annual spring fair. Music, food stalls, handmade crafts, the kind of thing you only find in small American towns. Lena bought a carved wooden pendant shaped like a feather and gave it to me. "For courage," she said. "You look like someone who needs to remember he's stronger than he thinks." We spent hours walking through the fair, trying roasted corn, listening to local bands, and talking about life back home. She talked about her students and how she missed them, and I shared how my job sometimes made me feel invisible. That night, sitting by the fire pit outside the inn, she said, "Maybe life's not about finding peace. Maybe it's about finding people who make the chaos feel worth it." Day 5, the goodbye. Our last morning came too soon. I woke up early and found Lena sitting by the lake, sketching one last time. The sun was just rising, the water glowing gold. She handed me a folded piece of paper. "For you." When I opened it, it was a sketch of me, sitting on that first overlook in the mountains. The caption at the bottom read, "The man who remembered to breathe." I looked up, but she was already walking back toward the inn. Later that day, she left for Portland. No long goodbyes, no promises to stay in touch, just a wave, a smile, and that same quiet peace she'd carried all along. Epilogue. 1 year later. It's been a year since that trip. The drawing now hangs on my apartment wall, framed. Every time I look at it, I remember that week, the laughter, the rain, the mountain air. I quit my job 2 months after returning and started working remotely, focusing on photography and travel writing. I guess Lena's courage rubbed off on me. Sometimes I still think about her, where she might be, what she might be drawing now. But mostly, I just feel grateful. Because some people aren't meant to stay, they're meant to remind us who we are. That's what Lena did. She showed me that sometimes the best journeys don't just take you to new places, they take you back to yourself.